Hi everyone, my name is Yoav and I'm the developer behind GradientArt. And in this tutorial, I'm going to go over the different parts of the editor and I will show you how to use it to create this design that you're seeing right here, which is the Minecraft creeper, sort of a pixel art design. And we will create it using various techniques. So the GradientArt website is more than just an editor. You can also use it to share your work and explore designs that were made by others. You can find things like patterns here, art, shapes, logos, and more. So let's start by creating a new design. And this will take us to the editor. And in the editor, we have three main parts. We have the left section with all the tools, the middle area, which is the canvas, and on the right, we have different panels. So the first thing we need to do is add a new layer. Okay, so I'm going to click here on this button and add another layer. And this will create a new background with a few default color stops. In this area, you can find all the different properties for that background. And if you go back to the left, we have all these tools that we can use. For example, the transform tool, where we can use to move and scale the gradient. We can use the rotate tool to change the direction of the gradient. We can use the pan tool to move the canvas around. And we can use the zoom tool to zoom in or out our canvas. Okay, so let's start by creating the grid. The grid of this character is 8 by 8. So I'm going to start by changing the canvas to 800 by 800. It's just going to be a bit more convenient for me to work with that size. We can use this first layer and we can change the color stops here. First, let's remove this one because we don't need that. And we're going to change it to transition from a transparent background to a solid black background. And I'm going to move these two to be right next to each other so the transition is sharp between the two. Let's change back the angle to 0. Actually, let's make it 90. Okay, so we have this line now, but it's a bit too big. So let's change it to 100 by 100, which is the size of a single pixel, right, in our grid. And we can move this to that corner using the transform tool, or we can just play with the coordinates here like that. So 0 by 0 and 100 by 100 is the size. That line looks a little bit too thick, so I'm going to move the color stops to around 95. Okay, that seems better. We can use the repeat option here to make it repeat across the x-axis and the y-axis. So now we have something like that. Let's rename this to grid, and let's duplicate this and rotate it so that we have the horizontal lines as well. So we can just change that to 0. And here we go. We have our grid. It's a little bit too strong in my opinion, so I'm going to make it a little bit more transparent. Change the alpha to 0.2 on both. Okay, so that's our grid. Next, I'm going to create the facial elements, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So let's create a new background. We'll make it a solid color, black, and let's move it to this pixel. And it's going to be 2 by 2 pixels, so 200 by 200. And this is the left eye. Let's rename that eye. And I can duplicate that and move it across to the other side for the right eye. And now we can duplicate that to create the mouth and nose. So this is the nose. We can resize it like so. Duplicate it. This is the mouth. The mouth is 2x4, something like that. Let's duplicate that again. Make that a 1x1 and move it right here. And duplicate that again and move it across. By the way, we can also use the arrow keys to do fine adjustments. So if I go back to the cursor, I can see that these are not really aligned. So I'm going to use the arrow keys to align them better. So let's move that a little bit to this side. Yeah, that's better. And this one as well. Okay, looking good. Now let's do the background. So we can start by adding a new layer. We can give it the full size of the canvas, or we can just use the repeat function. Now it's covering all the other elements. I'm going to drag it down so it is below everything else. Let's make it a solid color, green. That's good. So it's already pretty good as it is, but I want each square here, each pixel, to have a slightly different shade of gray. So we can use a nice little trick here with the conic gradient. We can resize it to the size of 2x2, which is 200x200. You can see the dimensions here. Let's remove the repeat option here. And then we can add color stops to each square here. We can split the gradient here into 4 different colors. And the color stops will be at 0, 25, 50, and 75. So let's create a slightly different shade of gray here. Add another one. Make that one a little bit darker. And another one. And change the hue to this maybe. All right, so we have different colors here. And now let's change it to 25, 50, and 75. Let's hide the left eye here so we can show you how that looks like. We have different colors here, but the transition between them is smooth, and I want the transition to be sharp. So I can add another color stop for each of the colors, and I can move this to 25, this to 50, and this to 75. And now you can see that each square has a single color. So what that means is that from 0 to 25, 0 is 12 o'clock, 25 is 3 o'clock. We're going to have that color. And then from 25 to 50, which is from 3 to 6, we're going to have a different color, and so on. Now let's bring back our hidden eye, and we can repeat it across X and Y. And now we get a bit more interesting background. And that's it. Thank you.